Welcome to our first middle school webinar. This is an introduction to middle school, and we'd like to welcome both returning and our new families. Today we'll go through, as we go through this presentation, please record your questions in the Q&A. We prefer one question at a time. That makes sure we don't lose your question along the way. So my name is Anthea Clifton. I'm the middle school principal. This is my third year at AES, and it's been an absolute joy and privilege to be part of the AES community. Prior to coming to AES, I actually lived in Indonesia and worked at Jakarta Intercultural School, and I've raised 3 international students, so I know some of the experiences that you're going through, but I'm pleased to say they survived school and are now on to greater things at university. So there is hope.
And my name's Serena McMahon. I'm the assistant principal to the middle school. This is actually the start of my second year at AES, and last year was a grand adventure, and honestly I'm really excited to be starting it again and seeing, hopefully having a better idea of what I'm doing and going forward from there. So that's it.
Okay, today, just to give you an overview of what we have coming up in the next few weeks, today we're talking about an introduction to middle school. On July 16, we're actually going to share a little more specifics around our middle school literacy program and how you can support your children and how they can be still learning while they're on summer break and maybe not even notice. July 29, we have an introduction to middle school, specifically what the first few weeks will look like. This may involve distance learning, and at that time we'll give you some more information about the daily sort of structures and again how as parents you can support your children make good choices and the sorts of things we'll be doing from our end to make sure that the learning is rich and rewarding. And on July 31, we're sharing a YouTube link with students about the first week of school, and this is intended to demystify what it's going to look like, give them some sense of security and build the excitement for coming back to what will be another wonderful year at AES. Today though, we want to spend some time just looking at middle school, our middle school programs, and why we think that the middle school years are important to think critically about and to have a special program for. To work in middle school, you embrace ambiguity, fun and creativity. You expect the unexpected. Children enter middle school in grade 6 with energy and enthusiasm for learning. They question, take risks, and life is pretty straightforward. As they leave 8th grade, some of the flowing conversations have given way to single words, grunts, and maybe even shrugs. Life seems a little more unfair, and sleep and friends are their only lifeline. This is great, and this is normal. This age group moves from concrete to thinking more abstractly, and our 8th graders are still curious and energetic. It just looks a little different. As students leave middle school, they're able to see more complex ideas and begin to question their place in a bigger world. Middle schoolers are curious, rapidly growing, and rapidly learning. How we support and frame learning is critical to them staying engaged in learning and developing dispositions to be successful contributing adults. As educators and parents, we need to support the curiosity and not crush it. Designing learning, asking questions develops an intrinsically motivated learner. So successful adults in work and in their personal life are intrinsically motivated. The motivation comes from within. And I'd say traditionally as teachers and maybe parents, we've relied on more extrinsic motivation to achieve results. Things like do this or you'll be in trouble, you'll get bad grades, you'll miss your break, etc. When we motivate a child or an adult externally, we usually get compliance, but the behaviors and the values haven't changed, and next time the same pressure is going to be needed. So to create good learners, we want to move up this scale. We want to move towards intrinsic motivation. We want that motivation to come from within. That is tough though, because it requires us to act differently. We have to ask more questions. We have to embrace that they may take learning in a different way. We have to live with some ambiguity. We have to ask questions about how we can support rather than tell them how to do it. In middle school, the learning is designed to develop an intrinsically motivated adolescent to continue nurturing the curiosity that drives the learning. So this year, what are we excited about in learning? We have rich programs in languages, music, exploring the creative arts, but I thought we'd just highlight a few things that we will be continuing to develop and that we're excited about. Last year, we began our English Language Arts program working with Stevie Quate, an experienced teacher and consultant from Colorado. The intention was to develop stronger readers and stronger writers. We know from research that being a strong reader is one marker of academic success. This year, we are excited to continue to build this program. We take students from where they're at, teachers model reading and writing, and students then dive in and try. You'll hear more about this journey on July 16 in our literacy webinar. This year, we are excited to continue to develop our science program. We're implementing the next generation science standards, which takes us beyond the content of science. And as a science teacher, I can tell you there's so much content. What's important for scientists is developing the analysis and critical thinking skills and seeing the connections between ideas. Brain research tells us that to have quality learning, we need to connect on an emotional level with what we are learning, anchoring science learning in phenomena that our students can connect with and make meaning of, makes learning authentic and engaging. We are looking to go deeper into science, and we're doing this with the support of Chris Chanitsky, who is a teacher and a consultant in the next generation science standards. Health and PE, we're really excited about our program this year. We're excited to be integrating PE and health programs to build more authentic connections between knowledge and the action part of well-being. An integrated health and PE program is really about helping students focus on their well-being and how to develop lifelong skills and strategies to be well in mind, body, and spirit. Our program is focused on the assets that you need to be well, not the deficit that causes you to be unwell. Our teachers, counselors, and consultants will help us to develop a rich program over the coming years.
Okay, so I'm going to continue on from there. So Anthea's talked about the amazing learning that we're doing that we think will really excite and engage the children. And I want to talk about some of the other things that we're doing in order to support children in middle school. The first one is the idea of community. And everything at this age group, everything is about being part of a community and feeling like they have somewhere where they belong and having a sense of identity. And we support this in a number of different ways. We have our advisory program, which are small groups of 6 to 8 children that meet on a regular basis with the same teacher, and they end up building a really strong relationship where they can support each other and face their challenges together. And they work on collaboration and team building. And they have a chance, we work with some organizational skills to help them develop those. And there's also opportunities to develop service. So all those things happen in our advisory program. We also have a slightly bigger scale is our grade level programs. And the really important thing with the grade level programs is we are catering to the specific needs of each age group. And obviously, as Anthea says, it can vary very dramatically between grade 6 and grade 8. There's some big growth that happens in there. And so we want to make sure that we're providing a program that's catering to what those children need at that moment in time. The great thing about the grade level program is that the children get a bigger group and they have that relationship with their entire cohort. They also build a really strong relationship with the teachers that are connected to that grade level. So always looking at finding ways where they can see, I fit in here and I know where I can go if I ever need help or support. The other great thing about the grade level program is that we challenge the children and we encourage the children to step outside their boundaries and push themselves in a safe environment where it doesn't matter if failure is still considered a great learning opportunity. So all that happens with the grade level program. A slightly bigger scale, so we're getting from our really small, intimate little connections up to our bigger ones, is our fort connections. So everyone in the middle school, teachers, students, staff, everybody gets divided into one of our 4 forts. And this is a great opportunity for us to really highlight the fun that we have in middle school. And so through doing this, we have the kids to have an opportunity to interact across grade levels, which is pretty rare. They don't get that many opportunities to do that. So this is a great moment for them. It gives the grade 6s someone to look up to and to admire and feel that connection, particularly when they first arrive, because it can be a bit daunting starting the middle school. And then it's a great opportunity for our grade 8s to work on their leadership skills and sort of be able to understand that there's more to the world than just themselves. So that's a really good and important part for everybody to learn. They also get to build relationships with different faculty and different staff. So again, we're looking at all those connections. How do we make more connections and build a community amongst all the children? And then how do we build it with children and adults so that they feel that they are part of the community at all times? The next part that we want to talk about, so we've covered what's great about the learning, the community. The last part we really want to talk about, and that's really important in middle school, is student empowerment. And the thing with this age group is they want more responsibility. They want to be treated like adults, but we're all quite conscious of the fact that they might not necessarily yet have the skills needed to be successful doing that. So middle school is a great time for them to be developing those skills. And so we try and set up situations where we can help them and make them feel more empowered and feel that they have a say in what's going on and that their opinions and their thoughts are important and valued to us. We do this a number of ways. We give them a variety of choice. That can be in subjects, it can be in the books they read, it can be in how they want to present their assignment. All these choices are allowing them to take chances and to understand that their choices and their actions will have consequences and will support them, and everything's a learning opportunity in middle school. We also encourage them to take some ownership of what's going on. So we set our expectations and we encourage them to take ownership for what they do, and that can be for good or bad, really. So they're always looking at learning from every opportunity they have and understanding the consequences for any actions that they choose to take or not take. We encourage them to do portfolios of learning. This is a great opportunity for the children to take pride in their work. It means that they have an authentic audience in the parents and in the rest of the faculty and the school and the wider community. And so there's a chance for them to take some pride in what they're doing. And with that pride comes more ownership of how they're presenting themselves and what they're trying to achieve. Part of that also is our student-led conferences. So rather than a traditional parent-teacher conference, we want the children to be involved in those conversations because it is their learning. And so we need to set up situations, realistic and authentic situations, where their opinion and their voice about their learning is valued and is expected from them. So student-led conferences is a very big part of our way of expressing and encouraging kids to take some empowerment and feel better and responsible for their own learning. Another thing that we did, in fact, we do regularly in different areas, but we certainly did at the end of last year, was the passion projects. So the passion projects was all about picking a topic that they were passionate about. We all know we do better with any topic when it's something we're interested in. They got to pick the project, they got to pick the topic, and it was an amazing opportunity for children to really stretch themselves in an area that they wanted to and take some ownership and some responsibility for where that path was going to take them. And the feedback we got from the children was extremely positive. They loved that it got to be something they were interested in. They loved that they got to figure out how they wanted to go about doing it. And almost all of the feedback that I've received so far was that they would love to do it again. So that's another way that we're encouraging children to take some ownership of what's happening in their learning, and something that we'll certainly be continuing in the future. So now you've heard what we think is exciting about the middle school and why we're excited to be heading back. And what we need to now try and do, hopefully with your support, is get that enthusiasm for the children as well. So we're going to give you a bit of a sampler. You guys are getting a sneak peek. Next week we will be, or in the next few weeks, we'll be sending out a YouTube video. It's just a little teaser, trying to build some anticipation around coming to the middle school and starting the school year, because some children are going to have mixed feelings about coming back, particularly the grades, now our new grade sixes. They're nervous and we really want to sort of relieve their concerns. So what we're going to show you the video, and then if you can watch it with your children and encourage them and think about all the positives and the amazing things that we'll be presenting, that will be good too. So here is our teaser.
We hope that gave you a little quick intro to things that the middle school could look like this year. We're excited to be on the journey to the start of a new year. And now just a reminder, we have July 16, the Literacy in the Middle School webinar. This will be hosted by the middle school and joined by Courtney Almoreno, one of our learning coaches and also the department lead for English Language Arts. July 29, we have actually another webinar with parents specifically, but children are welcome to join. And that is intended to talk more specifically about the start of the school year and the sorts of structures that we'll have in place and the way that days will look and how we plan to support wonderful learning this year. Also on July 31, we'll send out a link to students. Again, just a reminder, that's intended to help demystify the start of the school year, particularly for our new students and for our sixth graders. We want them to feel confident and empowered to start the school year with information. And so that will be intended just to help them feel welcome and let them know that there are adults around ready and willing to support them. So with that, we're going to move to the question and answer session. If we haven't answered your question already, we will attempt to answer it here, or maybe some of the answers will be coming in the next few days or weeks. So please, one question at a time, and we'll try and do our best to get you the information that you need. Okay, we have some questions that we've been able to answer as we've been presenting the information. I think we have one question at the moment around getting to know, for teachers, getting to know students and making connections. I think the big question on a lot of people's mind right now is what does it look like and how does it work? And unfortunately, we don't know exactly what that is, but we are working on the plans, and that's part of our upcoming webinar at the end of July about sharing more specifics once we're very clear on the start of school. Something brief though is the beginning of a school year is really about making connections. The beginning of the school year is about routines and structures, and I think I've said this before, it doesn't matter if we're online or if we're in school, we still have to do those things. And so there will be specific time set aside for teachers to connect with students. Again, in advisory groups, even if we're online, we can still have advisory sessions, and in classrooms too, there'll be the usual things about setting up classroom norms, classroom expectations. And so while that's not specific, they're the things that we will do irrespective of where we are. And as we get closer to the start of the school year, we will be sharing more specific things, because as parents, you need to know the way you can support your children in terms of their learning at home, the sorts of things that we're going to be setting up for them. So I hope that covers some of those general questions. Just looking at some of these other ones. Serena, was there anything else I should add to that initial one while I read some of these other questions?
Look, it doesn't matter if we were starting online or if we're starting at school. The first priority for any start of school year is to build those relationships, make sure that the children that are just joining us and are trying to build new relationships, that they're comfortable. And we have amazing counsellors, we have amazing student ambassadors. Our teachers are very conscious of how challenging this can be. I know with our new grade 6 children coming in that there's going to possibly be nerves with that, but the teachers are aware of these things. We have amazing teachers, and they're going to put everything in place to ensure that your children feel particularly comfortable. They will get to meet people straight away. They will have chances to talk with other children. If we're online, it'll all be done through chats online. They'll have small group conversations. So those relationships are far more important to us at the start than getting straight into content. And we will do the time necessary to make sure that everyone feels comfortable with who they're working with. They understand who their teachers are. They understand how the program works and what we're going to expect from them. So whilst we're not giving specifics right this moment in time, please know that it's the first priority on all our lists is to make sure that the children are comfortable and are ready to learn, because they're not going to be able to learn until they get to that part. So that's our first priority before we go any further.
Thanks, Serena. And I think, yeah, the big thing about any school year, and what I'm almost pleased about is the same concerns be online or distance or in person, is it's about the nervousness that comes with a new school year, and it's that unknown piece. So any opportunities we have to create the community and the opportunities to connect is sort of high on our list right now. We're working with our support services and our psychologists and counselors just to really hone in on the things we can do to build the connections and the well-being. Just checking a couple of the other questions here. I'm not sure, maybe the question around which subjects are concerned with grade levels, if I could get some more detail, maybe I can try and answer that one.
While Anthea's doing that, I'll take a brief moment, and in case there's anyone that has not had the pleasure yet of being introduced to Dr. Andy Torres, who is our new head of school, who has joined us in this meeting. So in case anyone was sitting there looking at the names going, I don't know that one, this is Andy. They should, I know. I'm helping them out, Andy, that's all.
Thank you.
No, it's a great opportunity. So Andy, do you want to say anything to them?
No, but I'm busy typing answers here as well. So it's just participating along with everybody else here. So thank you very much, Serena. It's nice to be here, and I do appreciate the middle school leadership doing a great job this evening, putting things out for parents and hopefully clearing up some misconceptions and hopefully getting people interested in following up on the upcoming webinars coming up through the rest of the month.
Thank you, Andy. Apologies for not introducing you earlier. Hey, you got a slide on the parent thing, so you know you're a star.
I'm a middle school parent. I have an 8th grader, so I'm here, you know, in twofold. As I think Nada is, and maybe Iftikhar. So we're here in two realms.
Right. Well, that doesn't increase the pressure on us at all. Thanks for that. Good. Comforting. Wonderful. There was a question there about being able to meet people and being nervous about starting. With any time that we have, particularly new children that are arriving at AES and haven't had those pre-existing relationships, we have an amazing program with our counsellors that they oversee that. There is great orientation and check-ins with all the new students. We have student ambassadors, a number of wonderful children that thrive on the idea of getting to meet the new children and introduce them around and make sure they feel comfortable. And those relationships will still be happening even if we're online. There will still be building those connections and getting to meet people, because we can do that virtually with groups. We did that with some of our new teachers. We've been meeting with them online. So there's still a chance to do those things. So the children, whilst it will seem a bit different to how we've done in the past, there's not going to be much of a difference when it comes to, we will help with introductions, and all the teachers in the classrooms will help introduce the kids. It's all about, like I said, it's about building those relationships first. Hope that helps.
And we have a couple of questions, thank you, Serena, around sort of what does, if we're learning online, what does that look like in a typical day? Again, that's something we'll give more specific information about at a later webinar so that you can be there to support. Generally though, there has to be a balance between time online and time where students can step away, and there's things that students can do when they're not online. Something that we have learned from schools and research is that it's actually unhealthy for students just to be glued to their screen for say 6 to 8 hours a day. So one of the big things that we're working on as we move to the beginning of the year, and if we are starting online, is to make sure that there's actually a balance. So time online, time connecting with teachers, time to make sure that they're on the right track and getting the feedback. And then actually there are some things they should do offline, and that is the quiet work where they need to think, construct, and that's the piece that they can do without actually being connected necessarily to a class or in a particular time where they're fixed to their screen. So we're looking for a balance, and that's more information we'll share as we move into the reopening webinars that come up in later in July. Do we have any new questions perhaps we haven't been able to address yet? I think we've talked a bit more about students and trying to make them feel connected. We'll have ambassadors.
There's a couple of questions in there about the actual, what it'll look like for the class lessons and that sort of thing. And we'll go into much more detail on our next webinar, which is on the, Anthea, help, 29th?
I think it's the 29th.
29th of July, where we'll be able to give you a much clearer, and we'll be very detailed and explaining how we anticipate the lessons working, what our expectations are, time online, time offline, all those sorts of questions. So whilst that's not particularly helpful to you right now, please know that we are collecting it all and we will have it all ready for you before school starts.
Something that we are quite excited about, which isn't in the questions, but it's after meeting with the ASIAC principals, middle school principals, the Mumbai and Chennai and the athletics directors, we are pretty excited that we're going to sort of broaden the definition of ASIAC, at least in the first semester, and have students across 3 schools, no matter where they are in the world or in India, connect through some things like National History Day, esports. I'm trying to think of these. Math counts is pretty typical, but we're actually going to have those students, and so they can connect with each other in things that they're passionate and have an interest in. So that's an exciting thing that we'll be able to set up with the 3 schools as we begin the year. And that's another way when we talk about building community. That's the one that goes beyond our walls, but also helps kids in similar circumstances online, India, actually connect and realize that they're not alone in this experience. Okay, just checking, there's a question around managing online assignments, not in the same time zone. Yep, that's a struggle for parents, students, teachers across many countries. And it's something that we're working on. I think we're looking to find balance, and there's a couple of tech tools we might use to help students better manage that. Google Classroom will continue to be our major delivery of the way students connect with teachers, because we can track that, but there will be a couple of other things that will help stitch all of the pieces together a little bit, and all 3 divisions actually are working on that right now. Do we have any new questions? Andy, is there anything we need to be adding, or Ilva for new families?
The question around updating of when kids are going to be allowed on campus on open house days and so on. And I think that the key here that we're on the ground and constantly monitoring in Delhi is just what the status of the virus is, where and what the advisories are around, where people can go and the manner in which they can travel. We need to be sure to provide the safest environment possible on our campus, and that's going to be our #1 priority. I'm going to continue to say that over and over again. Are the safety and security of our children and our faculty and staff, as well as our parent community, has to be at the top of our minds at all times. This virus is nothing to mess around with, and nothing could be worse for AES and our community than to have virus being spread inside of our community. So we all have to take a collective responsibility for that. And part of our responsibility as the leadership team and the operations and administration of the school is to make sure that the campus is as tight as possible, to make sure that we are able to provide a safe learning environment for your children. So we're going to be careful. We're going to open up our campus very carefully to students first. Obviously, our faculty and staff who are available are going to be on campus. They're going to be well trained. We're going to have systems in place so that when you come onto campus, a student or anybody else, that there's a process so that we can see and monitor, who's there, where they're going, and so on. So we want to make sure that everybody understands the rules. And part of that is we all have to take responsibility for ourselves, but in doing so, we know we're taking responsibility for everyone else in our community as well. There'll be a lot of information coming forward around mask wearing, around signing in, about how we're going to be doing thermal scanning in classrooms, how we're going to be doing thermal scanning at the gates, and and how we might be doing social distancing in classrooms and on our campus, and how we might be also needing to do contact tracing if, heaven forbid, someone does come down with this virus. It's very complicated, and so we're being very careful, and we have taken to have outside consultation with a independent third party consultant. International SOS is coming in to help us out to make sure that we're following what would be scientifically guided steps to make sure our campus is safe. So I have two kids on campus. Again, I want to make sure they're safe, but most importantly, the entire campus has to be solidly behind the idea that it is our school, and so we are all collectively responsible for that space.
Thanks, Andy. We have a general question. I think it's a good question around how many students will be physically at school, and this is something that students probably worry about. Like, everybody's back in Delhi, everybody's on campus, and I'm not, so I'm the one that's not there. That's usually how things work for middle schoolers. Actually, we have we're collecting data on that right now, and there's certainly families that are in Delhi. I'm not sure the exact numbers, but we definitely have a number of families in Delhi. But we also have a significant number of families that are not in Delhi, and so the learning that we have to do is going to have to meet the needs of both groups. So if you're in Delhi and feeling like maybe it's not going to be set up well, that's in our mind. And for families who are not in Delhi, please know that your needs are equally as important, and we're working to look for a way to meet everybody's needs, which obviously can't be perfect, but we are trying to come up with the best scenarios possible, understanding time zones. In meeting with the middle school principals from Chennai and Mumbai, they're in a similar position. And so we're exploring a number of different ways that we might do that, which is partly why today we're not really going into specifics, because as we get closer and we get better details about how we're functioning, we can then give you much more timely and appropriate information. So generally, yes, we'll be thinking about how we meet the needs of families in Delhi and the families not in Delhi. And please reassure your children, if they think they're the only ones not at school in person, there's plenty of people that will not be present in Delhi as we start the school year. So I hope that helps answer that one.
So Anthea, if I can just,
yes.
Because we have a lot of new families, so I just want to say thank you for joining us today. And I know that a lot of the families are worried because transition is difficult in the best of times. And this is sort of extra complicated now with the COVID-19 situation. We will make sure that student ambassadors in middle school will connect with new incoming students. The counselors are there to support the transition. We will organize new family orientation. And I also would like to say that please reach out to me, because I'm here to help. And if you feel like I haven't received the information or I have questions, please do reach out, and I'll coordinate and make sure that you're set up with the right person in the middle school. So we're here to help you. Thank you.
Thank you, Ilva. I don't think we have any open questions at the moment. I think we've covered most of them. Is there anything we need to add from any of our panelists at this point?
No, maybe just mention those dates again for the upcoming webinars. Off the top of your
Serena,
head.
do you remember them off the top of your head? So one that I'm
July
really excited
16.
about. Yes, that's the one.
July 16, we will be talking more specifically about our literacy program, and our head of department for English language arts, Courtney L. Marino, will be with us to be able to share what the whole philosophy is around reading and writing within the middle school. On July 29, I hope that's the right day. July 29, that's the date when we will be able to share with you in a lot of detail about what our plans are for how school will look, what exactly to expect, all our expectations, what we're going to do to help support the children and make sure that everyone's comfortable with that. And then around about July 31st, we will send communication specifically to your children, and it'll tell them exactly what to expect those first few days, and this is where you need to be, or this is when you need to log in, or whatever it's going to be. And this is who will help you, and this is who you can contact if you have questions, which will be Anthea and I and our counsellors and all our student ambassadors. So those are the big dates coming up. And yeah, if at any time you have questions outside of those, please feel free to reach out to us, send us an email, contact the middle school office, and they will forward those emails on if you don't have our email addresses directly. And we'll do everything we can to make sure that we're good to go for the start of the year.
Serena, if I can jump in for just a moment. My name is Nada Collins, and I'm the Deputy Director for this coming school year. I noticed that almost half the questions that we had tonight were about connections and about relationships. And I want to take just a minute to reassure you, for those of you who are returning parents, you know this is something that AES does really well. You know that building that sense of community is extremely important to us. And I know I was impressed. And it was marked to me how well we weren't able to maintain. We felt a dip, but we were able to regain that sense of community during the time that we were not able to physically be on campus. And it really became quite evident that AES is much bigger than the buildings that sit in Chanakipuri. For new parents as well, I just really want to reassure you that, of course, it looks different when we're not all physically in the same space. The activities that we use and the way that we build those connections look different. And we've all been experiencing that. The way that you've built relationships with people and maintained those relationships with people in your family and in your lives has looked different over the past few months when you can't give that hug, or you can't be as physically close to them. You can't have large gatherings. But just as you found ways to replicate that in your personal lives, I can reassure you that our middle school administrative team has worked to replicate and innovate and find ways to ensure that those connections and those relationships are really well maintained. It's an appropriate theme for parents of any child, but especially in middle school, where kids are struggling with kind of their sense of self and who they are, knowing that they're going to have an adult that they can really connect with, that they can build a relationship with, that they have peer connections that are going to be really important. There'll be a lot of attention paid to this, and what it looks will be different in many ways, but the quality will not suffer.
Thank you, Nada. Do we have anything else? One thing, again, I put a plug in for the 16th of July. I think that's a really important one because it's actually about our programs, and something that can work quite well even on online learning is how we structure our literacy program. So it's probably a good one for new families, but even returning families, to come and learn a bit more about that, because there are things that you can encourage your kids to do now, but there are things you'll better understand what you see your child doing as we begin the school year, on campus or not. So that's probably one worth doing, because it's actually getting into the fun stuff, which is the learning stuff, and help us sort of focus on the things that we really need to be and all want to be focusing on, which is learning. So July 16 is a good one if you can make that, but we will record it if you can't. And Courtney's in the States, so she's pre-recording the information for it.
And let me add something, Anthea. I'm Shirley Drazy, and I'm the Director for Teaching and Learning at the school. My background is in middle school education, both as a teacher and as an administrator, and these are very important years for your children. And our staff in our middle school program have done an outstanding job, and will continue to do that in really mentoring middle school kids, catering to their needs, and really making the efforts to build those bridges between school and home as well. And I think all of you can feel real comfortable in approaching any of the middle school staff with your questions as the year goes on. So we're glad you're here tonight.
Thank you, Shirley. One more question. I'm not sure how much time we've got left, but this is a good question. How are teachers feeling about online learning and supporting and infusing sort of passion for learning in the upcoming semester? I think if you gave any teacher around the world an option right now, they would choose to be in a classroom. This is our least preferred model, is online, partly because it's just not a natural or great way to connect, but we all did discover we can do it. So that's one plus coming out of last year, is we can do it. And also it just the amount of time and energy to try and make sure that kids are getting the same experience is significant. So everyone would much rather be in person, but giving teachers a break. Most of our teachers have been able to switch off, and also starting to give them some clarity around what the start of the school year looks like is helping give people okay, we're getting ready to take this on. And knowing that we managed to do it last semester actually is a really good stepping stone into the new semester. So we're pretty confident that people are ready to tackle a new year. And it's exciting because there's new students, there's new programs. So actually there's a lot of things to look forward to. Andy, how much time do we've got no open questions at the moment.
I was just going to say we are at that 45-minute mark, which I think was what we were targeting for these. I'll take just if anybody's out there with one more quick question, we're good to go. I just, while people are thinking about those, I just want to note that next day after tomorrow, which is what is the day in Asia? Is it Monday night? Is it Tuesday? I'm in Oregon, so I'm having a hard time figuring out.
Tuesday right now, Andy.
We're in Tuesday.
Tuesday in Asia is the high school presentation, and Iftikhar and his team are preparing for that presentation. So if you have not signed up yet, please do so. We appreciate your attendance. Even if you don't have a high school student, you're welcome to attend. I know if you're probably a 7th or 8th grade parent, you may have a lot of interest in what's going on at the high school. And I think that some of the information that is not just about our online programs, but also just the structure of programs moving forward. So please be feel free to join us then.
Okay, we don't really have any other open questions, Andy.
So I think that's good then this evening, Anthea. So or this morning, and we appreciate everybody.
Good start.
Yes, absolutely. Good job, Anthea. Thank you, Serena, for your work in putting this together.
Thank you. And with that, I think we'll sign off and look forward to seeing you either on Thursday, High School 1, or into next week as we begin our elementary and our literacy webinars. So we hope you have a wonderful week.
Thank you so much. Enjoy. Be safe and be well.